Howdy folks, this is Head DM, and today we're talking about the Warlock. The Warlock is my all-time favorite casting class. Despite being unable to cast many spells before a short rest, and always seeing Eldritch Blast as people's only action they take on every turn, I can safely say they are one of the most versatile classes in the game. But the biggest reason I love Warlocks so much is for the things in roleplay that you can do with them. For instance, a Shifter Warlock, using his sense of sight, in other words using Devil's Sight and Eldritch Sight invocations, to see everything despite the conditions, as well as being blessed with seeing magic around him as a gift from his patron. His eyes have become much better, and so he may always see his prey. Or perhaps the Illusionist, no one can name, using misty illusions and Mask of Many Faces invocations to appear as a vengeful spirit come to haunt people for his unjust death, and basically get whatever he wants in return. The invocations at the Warlock's disposal that have unlimited spellcasting uses without spell slots may seem terrible at first when compared to the battle invocations like the massive number of just Eldritch Blast invocations alone that seem to make the spell way better than it really should be. But they can enhance roleplay if you know how to flavor it. And they can be fun little utility things on the side. Not everything a spellcaster does has to be damage. That's what the front lines are for. But the most important part of the Warlock, and unfortunately the part that I have the most qualms with, is the patron. My issue isn't even with the patron idea itself. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to the Warlock. The issue is that there is only one person I've ever DM'd or played for that has used their patron in roleplay or story, or even discussed it with the DM. In this case, me. The issue with patrons is that nothing in the class description forces you to do anything with your patron in order to function, such as like the Paladin has, where they need to uphold their oath in order to keep their power. And everyone runs by it. But nobody seems to worry about what happens if you're not paying your Warlock with your tributes, which is a topic I'll get to later. People just mostly take the Warlock for the combat stuff or the multi-class shenanigans because we all know Coffee Lock is a busted piece of garbage that should never have existed in the game. Let me show you some amazing ways that a patron can be used in-game by the player in DM, because I think it's going to change how you think about your patron before you start playing. First off, and for many things in future videos from here on out, I'm going to say this. Always talk to your DM about major character things, including patrons and other things like this. In order to make a great patron, or even a great character, you need to talk to your DM. And especially with a patron, you want to discuss the following. The first thing is your patron's identity. Your patron type is determined by your subclass, and that can help narrow things down a bit and help you and the DM come up with your patron. Some questions to ask: is there a being that already exists in the setting that could be used as your patron? For example, in the long form that I run called King's Scepter, I've upgraded Baphomet from a demon prince to an actual god of dark magic. And a Fiend Warlock could easily use that same Baphomet as their patron. Now, that might go into cleric territory with my specific example, but you get the point. Is there a being that exists in your setting that could give the power so you don't have to make a whole new one? For your patron, what role do they play in the mythos of the game? And what are their motives? These will help determine more things about your relationship with your patron. The second thing that you need to worry about when coming up with a patron is the price. How did you come to communicate with this being? Did they reach to you, or the other way around? What did they ask in return for all this power that they're giving you? How do you help further their goals? You can see immediately how paying the price and what your Warlock will subsequently do with those powers can immediately tie in to the motives of the patron. This is why you need to focus on your patrons, because it actually brings meaning to the Warlock. Something that's important to note. is that patrons do not have to be evil. They can be good or neutral. This is all up to the deity itself. Especially helpful because this way you aren't forced to act against the party every time your patron calls, which is a huge relief to DMs and players who've read the horror stories everywhere. I want to talk about tributes for a moment, and I mentioned them earlier. A tribute is sort of a system that I use when I deal with Warlock players, or even my own Warlock. A tribute is something that can either be given exactly when the contract was formed, or something that you continuously do to pay off your patron, like, I don't know, student debt, which is very real to me because I'm about to go into a lot of student debt. The easiest way, in my opinion, to give a tribute is literally just to sell your soul. But what if your tribute could be activated by the DM at any time? Hear me out. Your tribute could be needing to consume dead humanoid flesh at least once a week if you have an undead patron. Or maybe the DM tells you that your celestial patron has noticed you haven't healed or cured a civilian unrelated to your party this week, and threatens to take your power away unless you seek to do so. Your tribute can be something you and your DM come up with. The DM can be a great asset for building a feasible, but still interesting tribute that is a good way to keep your Warlock patron happy. In conclusion, the Warlock has these amazing roleplay strings attached that should be used for the story, and only by talking with the DM can you make it fit into the setting and be interesting. Always remember to talk to your DM about all major things. You cannot ignore this advice, or else you may run into issues later down the line, and this goes for every class. With Warlocks, you have to think about these strings and how they can affect your character development as well. Just in roleplay alone, there are so many different characters you can make with the Warlock format, and each will act and fight differently than the next based off your invocations, spell choices, and your pact. The versatility of the class can let you do whatever you want with it, and if you make your patron as an actual driving force in your character's life and even a little bit in the story, then you're well on your way to blast through the hordes. Just remember, don't forget to pay your arcane power loan once in a while, or else the IRS will come looking for you. And that about wraps it up, folks. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content of this type, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment with what class you think I should cover next time. And with that, I bid you all farewell.